Well, woe is they. So my name is Jeremy Conoway. I'm the strategic architect here at HAR. Essentially, we have been in and will be in for some years to come an incredibly fast-moving industry and marketplace that requires this association to constantly adjust what it does, programs, products, and services. We have new members from new generations. We have new business models. So we have to change the model of our association to make sure we're relevant to this new market environment. And that's where I come in. I help design that process.
Great. And thank you again for being here, because you have so much knowledge.
So much better than my average Monday morning.
You have so much knowledge and on a lot of different topics. So that's what we want to talk about today. This was marketed as accelerated changes in the real estate industry. There's so many different changes going on. I want to start with one that, is obviously important to all of us, which is we're starting to see signs of a market shift from maybe a seller's market to a buyer's market. Can you tell us anything about that?
Right. Well, what we know is it's what we know, what we think we know, and what we'd like to know. Mm-hmm. And if we ever line all those up, we're perfect. So what we know is we've been in a seller's market for some period of time. We've been watching the prices of houses go up, and that makes sellers excited. We've had low interest rates, which means that the buyers could afford to pay the larger prices. So that's stabilized the seller's market. So what we also know, because what the economists tell us, is that at some point toward the end of next year or into 2020, we're going to be in a buyer's market, where prices will begin to go down, interest rates will continue to go up. And when we talk about interest rates going up, you and I are in a first-class generational struggle here. As I, of course, remember back in 1979 when the interest rates were 18%, and everyone's saying, they're going to go up to 5.1. And so if you're over 45 years old, you're going, what's the big deal? Mm-hmm. And if you are a millennial, you're going, wow, 5.1%, how could we possibly do it? But that's one of the trends. We're going to watch those rates. Watch those rates shift. So what we know is we're probably moving toward the buyer's market, which means the price of housing interest rates will go up, mm-hmm. and the prices will begin to drop. Now we go back to the classic question, well, how much are they going to drop? Well, as you know, the ultimate drop was during the recession in 2006 and 7, where house pricing dropped major, 20, 25%. Nobody's suggesting that's going to happen, mm-hmm. but it's the nature of the cycle that we're probably getting out of the range now where people can afford to buy houses. Mm-hmm. So the market will sort of slide those back down, and everybody will make a big deal about the fact that the price of houses is going to. It's pretty controlled. It's not a wild and crazy thing. It gets out of control every once in a while. That's what happened during the recession. Mm-hmm. So we're seeing those adjustments right now, and we anticipate then that we'll begin to move more in the direction of what's called the buyer's market, which is lower prices. It makes people happy, still affordable rates. The other issue that goes into that, and it makes this fun, is income, mm-hmm. Buyer income. We're beginning to see the last reports from the last quarter show a reasonably satisfying increase in how much money people are making. So they have more money to put in a home.
Right.
So those are the factors that go into it. So that's what it looks like.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about consumers. Last time you joined us, we briefly discussed consumers, but consumers are causing changes in the real estate industry as well. And again, we touched on this just briefly last time, but can you share with us some insight as to how consumers are causing some changes in the real estate industry?
Well, I suppose, again, we're always saying, what's the biggest thing? There's several things going on. Mm-hmm. Certainly one of them is the shift from, as of last week, I believe it was, now there are more millennial generation buyers in the marketplace than boomers, mm-hmm. for the first time in history. I feel somewhat depressed about that. we held on for a long time, but finally we slid off the end. So essentially, the millennials bring to the marketplace a remarkably different set of behaviors. I mean, mm-hmm. I recently spent a Saturday morning hunting cars with my son, who's mm-hmm. a 31-year-old lawyer in Florida. And by about 11 o'clock, I had gained the things that, Jeremy, shut up. The thought patterns are just totally different. Mm-hmm. The assumptions are different. The value that they put on convenience and all kinds of stuff is different. But the fact is that's the big thing is we have a group of folks moving in who have a fundamentally different value structure than the Xers or the Boomers or the Civics before them. And that's going to be difficult for the industry to figure those things out. So that's the first thing. Second thing is that technology is impacting everything, but it's really impacting consumers. When you look at some of the things that people do now and take for granted, whether it's, going out and ordering something on Amazon at 8 in the morning and expecting it to be there at 2 o'clock. So they talk about immediacy. For a boomer, just having the money was the cool thing. If it took a couple of weeks, who cared? You had the money. Nowadays, it's about time. It's about immediacy. It's about people want things faster.
Yes.
Now, the whole real estate system is set up to drag. It takes incredible amounts of time because it was always acceptable.
Right.
So what you're seeing now is that the world in which the 60-day closing was the natural is now beginning to go away. People, the banking industry envisions a 2-week period. The other different, the whole iBuying movement, talks about the fact that I can sell my house and have a check in my hand within 72 hours. So immediacy is a big deal. And one of the things the industry has to figure out is that old, I'll get around to it when I get around to it, or I'm a very busy, important person, I'll get you when I can. Not going to work anymore.
Yeah.
So immediacy is the other thing that's driving consumers, the ability to make these moves, move them quickly, and that includes buying and selling homes.
Okay.
And you're seeing certain brokerages that are posturing for that. Other brokers are saying, oh, that's crazy. It'll still take 60 days.
Right. So I feel like, and I was going to talk about this later, but I feel like this is a good segue into teams, because part of, teams, part of that promise is that more, a better
More
customer
responsive,
experience.
more efficiency.
Right. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're seeing there?
Well, yeah, it's confusing. It's amazing for how many years watching the industry and analyzing what was going on. It was pretty clear. There were these wonderful little trends you could follow. So teams are an interesting thing. So you have, well, first of all, this is a very viable, competitive industry. And for years, we've sort of thought like everybody was sort of in the same direction. So agents and brokers were all working together to bring homes to Americans. What we're beginning to see with the teams is a bit of crack in that fascia, and so we're experimenting. Teams are still an experiment, even though 2 weeks ago, NAR came out with a survey that told us that some third of agents now are somehow involved. The survey said 68% of agents are either on a team, are thinking about a team, or so teams are on everybody's mind, and they're trying to figure out, what does that mean? All right, so for someone like myself, I'm trying to figure out, okay, what is that? So the fundamental purpose of a team is to impact a brokerage. And so we could say the fundamental purpose of a team is to deliver better customer service. We don't know that. We don't have any evidence so far that suggests we don't know. There's no research that says that teams are delivering a fundamentally better service than no teams or a brokerage system. What we know is that we are carving out an economic sector that used to be a brokerage issue of brokerage profitability, and now that's going to the person who runs the team. There's no evidence that in fact, it's probably not going to the agents on the team. But so there's another profit that has to be taken care of, and that's going to come out of the broker's traditional flow. And so we're trying, what does that mean? What is that going to look like?
Right.
The NAR's recent report also tells us that there's a chance that, given the fact that 1 out of 4 realtors today are on a team, that the government may take another look at regulatory behavior, because teams are really not regulated at all. I would go so far as to say the industry is not really regulated either, but clearly someone is going to point that out. And given the fact that teams are sort of growing on the back of older, more established participants in the industry who have the political wherewithal, so we would not be surprised to see the FTC, or it's probably would be the Federal Trade Commission, take a look at teams and decide whether or not they're good, bad, or indifferent.
Right.
So the team thing is up in the air. I'm sorry to the good old days of me being able to tell you black, white, black, white. So the team thing is up in the air. And so we're still trying to figure out, so our team's good for consumers? We don't know.
Right.
Are they good for agents? We're telling ourselves that's okay, but deep down we're understanding that the more profitable the team is, the less profitable the brokerage is. So is that a problem? Is that at a time when broker margins are certainly not exceptional? How's that going to impact that? So
Right.
we're going to watch this and keep watching this evolve.
It's very interesting and something to definitely, like you said, keep an eye on. And
Really is. Yeah.
See what's going on. So the last time you were here, our focus was, the changing brokerage models. We spoke a lot about changing brokerage models. You kind of introduced us to some brokerage models that are now in Houston as well. Is there anything new we should know? Are we seeing?
Yeah, well, Open Door started advertising last week.
Okay.
It seems like no big deal. And another organization is now running full-page ads in the Chronicle and talking about the fact that they don't use regular agents and they don't use the MLS. And so there's a lot.
There's a lot.
Now, those are huge changes. So this particular organization charges a 2% fee, and they do not reimburse. They don't participate in the MLS, and they don't reimburse buyers agents.
Okay.
And it's like, well, wait a minute. How can you do that? Well, you can. That's what's happening today. Is the new models can do pretty much whatever they want. We talked about Compass. Compass will be here certainly within the next 90 days.
Okay.
We know because they've joined the association and they're getting space and looking at hiring people and recruiting agents. What we know is that they've promised that they're going to have a 20% market share in the top 20 markets by 2020. So for them to pull that off here will be something we'll all see. We'll all know that. We'll recognize that they're involved. They have recently gotten another $400 million, which takes they work with an outfit called SoftBank, which is a Chinese bank funded generally by the Saudi funds, however they come from. And so they have an interesting system where they have more money than any real estate broker has ever dreamed of having. So they have somewhere around $1.2 million that they're going through to set up this stuff. That's impressive.
Yeah.
And they have some interesting attributes. We now know that another $400 million went to Open Door. Now, Open Door is, of course, one of the new iBuyer organizations. They're now buying 2,000 homes a month across the country. That is just an amazing. And one of the things we recently found out, we had the top executives of several of these companies, including Eric Wu, the CEO of Open Door, was in Galveston at the HAR Strategic Leadership Conference. And so going into the conference, it was the conventional wisdom. How conventional, it didn't even start till last year, but over the last 18 months, it was the conventional wisdom that iBuyers would take up something in the neighborhood of a 12% market share. Well, now we have people from Redfin and they're sitting there and Zillow. And so it turns out that that's not the case. It turns out that the current sense has been raised significantly, and people in the know are suggesting that it could be 16 to 23%. Those are pretty tall numbers.
Yeah, that's a big number.
So iBuying is now moving from a quirk or a trend into a much more stable thing. It has funding. Venture capitalists seem to like it because it's disruptive. So the iBuyer thing. And then the last thing, of course, that happened was the Realogy announcement. Now Realogy owns the 5 big brands, the Century 21 and Sotheby's and Coldwell Banker, and those is opening up 2 new franchises. Now, and the franchises are going to be fashioned after an organization called Climb, which is the 7th largest brokerage in the Bay Area in California. Okay. And it's like 7th largest in one. Well, how does that? Well, it turns out that they apparently have come up with a system that is particularly friendly to millennials.
Yes.
And so they're Realogy is going to do around that. And then the other one is called Corcoran. And you all, I guess, people know, certainly on the East Coast, Barbara Corcoran is sort of considered a cultural icon of things. So at a time when franchises, this is probably not going to go down in history as the best time for franchises, here comes Realogy, and they're going to start 2 one based on a generational model and one based on a celebrity.
Mhm.
And so people like me are going, wow, I mean, how does that work? And what about the other 5 brokerages that you have? How does that work? That's an interesting family.
Mhm.
And whose graduation are you going to go to?
Mhm.
And yeah, so in terms of, so lots of things happening.
Yeah.
What's not happening, however, I have to state this, is that we monitor across the country. Jim and I work in several different markets. What's not happening is that traditional brokers aren't, and I hate the term, don't appear to be comprehending what's happening. They don't appear to be recognizing the level of change and disruption. They are clearly not moving to change. They're not, you can tell by what they're doing, they're not adopting business plans or strategic and tactical options which will help them exist in this new marketplace.
Right.
That's what's scary. And so again, as we move forward,
Now that we're seeing that it's not a trend,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah,
taking
yeah,
up such a
that's
big
right.
portion
Yeah.
of
And
the
by the-
market,
yeah.
maybe
And
we'll
now,
see
and
some
now that we're
change there.
seeing that this year in 2018, over $100 billion is going to be spent in this industry.
Mhm.
I mean, that buys a lot of lunches. So there's these changes are occurring, but there's just somehow not a recognition of that or not a response to that.
Okay. So let's take a look at what some of our members are saying. Let's see. A lot of good mornings. Good morning to everyone out there.
And good morning to all of you. Thank you for getting up and being.
Yes. All right. So Jessica is asking, what can we do about the discounted brokers and their lack of service?
Well, the first thing we can do on behalf of our legal counsel is not talk about it. That would be the good thing. Okay, don't any discussion along those lines would be right down the antitrust rules. And
Yes.
if you've seen what antitrust judgments look like, stay away from that. Bottom line is, it's a business model, and we live in an industry that is now supporting a record number of totally different business models, and that'll be one of them.
Yeah.
And there's a place for it. It's not what everybody wants. In fact, it was interesting. Some of the research that came out of Zillow last week pointed out that the millennials are gaining a reputation for being willing to pay a little more if they can have more convenience. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and so that's so anyway. So
Yeah.
don't talk about competing models, and that'll be good for us.
Karen asked if you could, excuse me, if you could repeat the name of the 2 new brokerages that Realogy is opening.
Oh, Climb, CLIMB,
Mhm.
and Corcoran, her last name.
Yeah.
And those they're not out now. They'll be out sometime over the course of the next 6 or 7 months.
It's funny, you mentioned that Climb, they're good with millennials, and as an older millennial, but still a millennial, I actually know
Hang in
about.
there.
I'm in there. I know about Climb because of Instagram, of all things.
Okay,
So,
yeah.
it's working. Whatever it is they're doing to
But
get
see,
millennials.
Isn't that amazing? So
Mhm.
so when I saw it, and we were talking about it last week, I went, it's the 7th. They've got 3 offices, for heaven's sakes,
Mhm.
and it's the 7th largest in a single market. What
It
could they
is.
possibly have? And there were some folks like you came out, oh no, they do this great job.
Mhm.
That's what's exciting about this market, is there's so much creativity and innovation.
Right.
It's just amazing.
So Rosie's asking, what can small brokers do to ensure they'll be around after this tidal wave?
Right. Okay. So we have some very definite. Your association is on it. Okay, and we are developing programs that will help you do that. But the bottom line of that is, you've got to reinvent yourself, and so that you're open. We don't know. I don't know. Nobody really knows what this industry is going to look like in 36 months. What we know is it'll be different.
Mhm.
And it's okay as long as you accept that. But your brokerage business model has got to be able to adapt to these things. You can't spend 2 years saying, well, that's crazy, I'm not going to do that. What kind of commie plan is that? Commie for communists. It's an old term, But it's a really old term. But the point is, your brokerage has got to be prepared to accept the opportunities that you encounter. Attitudinally, you need to know an opportunity when you see it.
Yeah.
And if you're basically trying to protect the way you've always done it, then you'll always reject all these things. There's some really sweet programs coming down the line. And so, if you're a broker, you want to be one of those. If you're an
Yeah.
agent, you want to be associated with a broker who's looking out for where we're going to go. But, if the idea that, well, I'm 60 now and all I have to do is make it another 5 years and probably won't make it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty soon.
Yeah, well, it's going fast.
It's sooner than you realize when
Yeah.
it's, again, accelerated change. It's happening fast. So David asked, what would be considered good evidence of a broker preparing for the disruptive change?
Oh, excuse me. It's all right. A business plan. Okay. I mean, that's it. I mean, it's sort of like you'd ask, what's evidence that you're about to go on a really great vacation? Some airline tickets.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Book the trip. You maybe wrote out an itinerary.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe. But the point is, preparation begins with putting together a business plan, and nowadays the business plan is almost as much internal as it is external.
Mm-hmm. I think that's something we did talk about too last time you were here, that we were talking about new agents and that are joining and what to look for, in a brokerage, and you mentioned a broker with a plan, right?
Yeah.
So that was something that we kind of talked about last time. So
and I think too, you want to work with a crew of people who are willing to admit they don't know anything. I mean, really, I tell you that even in my position, every day I'm going, it's a learning experience. Every day, learn, because everything is different, and you got to like learning about stuff. And it's exciting. There's some major cool things going on that you look and go, wow, that's really a neat idea.
Yeah. I don't know if you know these numbers offhand, Jeremy, but Matthew's asking what percentage of new agents that joined HAR specifically over the last year are joining newer virtual model versus a traditional?
Oh, I wish we had that information.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, keep in mind that we live in a world in which, calling somebody a traditional brokerage can be an insult. So we're still trying to get everybody to agree that there's a line of folks and everybody's in a different position, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And saying that this is a leading edge, or this is a traditional, or this is an iBuyer is okay, and that's not insulting anybody. So, boy, I'd love to have that information.
Yeah. But you did mention some percentages earlier about the NAR study. You want to repeat those?
Oh, well, they're telling us that something in the neighborhood of 16 to 19% are currently on teams.
Mm-hmm. And how many are wanting to join? What was that percentage?
Well, it was kind of a weird statistic.
The way it was phrased. Was
60% are either on one or have thought about one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, who hasn't thought about it? I mean, you should be breathing air and not be thinking about it.
Yeah. Okay. So Michelle was asking, is it possible to get their full recording of this video? Yes, Michelle, after we finish up, it'll be
as we take the good parts out.
No, that's the good thing about this. No editing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right.
So this will be up on our Facebook page in the video section. You'll be able to watch it from the beginning there, Michelle.
Interesting, by the way, do take the time to go out on Inman, who did an excellent report last week about the NAR report. There's some good information. By way of example, their NAR survey found that the median number of people on a team was 4, 29% had 2 people, and 33% had 6 or more. Mm-hmm. So teams are smaller than you think. I mean, you tend to see people who seem to have an army, but actually the average is 4.
Yeah. All righty. And by the way, since Jeremy did mention Inman, if you don't know, you can go to har.com/Inman Select and sign up for your free Inman Select subscription there. That is actually part of your membership. So it was har.com/Inman Select. If you have not signed up for that, you can always get some great information.
Huge savings. Mm-hmm. Now, and again, on the subject, you got 30 seconds on that. Inman, every morning, first thing you do, look at Inman. Now, Inman will feature 20 new stories a day, and about 4 of them will resonate with you. So don't read all the stories, read the headlines of the story. And what you'll discover, if you just take 15 minutes and do that, it will change your life. Mm-hmm. Because for the first time, no matter how good an agent or a broker you are, if you don't have a complete understanding of what's happening in your environment, you just won't be able to fight the battle. Right. And frankly, Inman is the best way to get that.
Very good. Jean is asking, what direction would you choose to go if you were just starting out as a realtor?
Yeah, well, and in recognition of the 4 remaining mortgage payments I have, I think the answer there is, one, you can't do it by yourself. You're going to need a group of folks. And what you're really trying to do, you want to walk into whoever you're walking into, show me where you're going. And don't tell me about it, because we can all tell me. Show me your plan. Show me a document. Show me what your vision is, and what do you believe the industry will look like in 36 months? More importantly, where in that play do you want to be? And show me a written document that shows me how you're going to get there. That's the only way, because everybody has aspirations, but unless they put it in writing, yeah.
It's just an aspiration then, right?
That's right. Yeah. Their aspiration.
Their aspiration. All right. Well, that looks like all the questions that we have. Crystal said good stuff. Thank you so much. And again, Jeremy, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you. It's
again.
A privilege. I'm honored.
We always enjoy hearing your perspective, and clearly our members enjoy it too. So,
well, remember, we're here. If you need us, the Houston Association of Realtors is the best and amazing resources. So, come down and talk to us. Come to our programs. We're on top of this stuff.
Yeah, very good. And just to mention, har.com/get involved. A lot of people don't get to hear this kind of stuff, on a day-to-day basis or monthly basis or anything like that. But getting involved with the association's advisory groups and things like that, that's a great way to stay in touch and know what's going on and actually make a change as well. Because, our membership, you guys are the ones that make the decisions around here. So har.com/get involved. Check that out if you want to get involved with one of the advisory groups that HAR has. All right. Well, that's all we have for today. We'll be back next Monday, 9 a.m. So we'll see you then. Thank you again, Jeremy.
Thank you.
All right. Y'all
have a great
day.
week.
Bye-bye.